Thank you for joining me. This is Emma from the Daisy Chain podcast, and today I'm joined by Matt Bertrand from Like Family. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Emma. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. How's your day so far?
It's going well. We were just discussing that before this call. I was singing Sesame Street songs, and luckily I was on mute. Otherwise, you would have heard my voice.
I was recording you, ready to play your singing. So today we're going to chat about the power of human connection, how you came about setting up and establishing Like Family, and also a bit of your story and your background about the inspiration behind that. So thank you again for joining us. Like Family, can you explain what Like Family is to us?
Oh, thanks, Emma. Yeah, so Like Family is it's an online and offline community, but we're using technology to connect people who might live in similar neighborhoods or suburbs, and they have interests or hobbies in common. Maybe it's language or cultures in common, and they are looking for someone to help them with helping achieve their goals towards independence or autonomy. We try to stay away from using the word care. It's more about giving a helping hand to people who need just a little bit of a bit of a helping hand. Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. So what we do is we'll match locals in the community who we've trained and onboarded, and we'll match them with people who are looking for either community participation, helping them achieve their goals. It could be anything from public transport training to, attending an activity that they really enjoy doing, like dancing or music. So it's just really finding people who are compatible, and they can participate in activities together. And we find that, since we've been doing this, it puts in a different lens on the care industry, and rather than just matching someone with any support worker, they get to be matched with someone they actually get along with.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's those common values and goals makes it a little bit different, and exciting too, because everyone's empowered and doing something that makes them feel good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the people who are looking for support, should that service is so important, and it shouldn't be treated like a commodity. It should be treated like it's very, very important for people to have meaningful relationships with it's just there's so much emotional joy that comes from it when you're with someone who motivates you and provides you that support, that positivity in your life. Yeah, I think it's I think one example I can give is there was a young man that I was supporting who was playing soccer with Special Olympics. And I love sports. That's my sort of on my profile. It's all about sports. So his mother reached out to me asking if I was available on Saturdays, and it was Saturdays for 2 hours playing soccer with her son at the Special Olympics. Every Saturday at the Special Olympics grounds. It was in Castle Hill, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, and he enjoyed it as well. And it makes a difference when you're actually participating in the activity with the person rather than sitting on the sidelines. And that's been the biggest problem. The parents there couldn't believe it. They rarely see a quote unquote support worker on the field playing with their loved ones. So yeah, it makes a huge difference. And that's just one example, but it's applicable to any other activities that the person is interested in.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we're going to talk about the power of human connection. Obviously, the last couple of years, and we've talked about COVID a lot. Everyone has, and I don't want to, focus on that in particular. But I think obviously that's highlighted the fact of how much we need to connect as humans and people, and having that kind of taken away from us to a certain extent has made it all the more obvious. How important do you think human connection is, and what actually is human connection?
My perception on the human connection has changed a lot since what happened to my parents, and the seeing what they went through and what human connection actually enabled them to do. And since we've started Like Family back in 2016, I've just seen so many examples of the power of it. And that's why we want to, I guess, like, I don't want to sound like, educating as if like people aren't aware of it, but like, yeah, I think there's a sense of education that it is extremely important. Medication and prescriptions don't solve everything. There's in human genetics, there is in our DNA that need for social interactions with other humans. It's embedded in us. So I just go back to why we started Like Family. At 55 years old, my mom's brain essentially reset to having to learn everything all over again. I got a call from my auntie back in Canada while I was here in Australia, and my mom had quite a vicious brain virus called encephalitis, and was in a coma. And we weren't sure what would happen when she would wake up. So I flew to Canada by her bedside table and by her bedside. And when she woke up from her coma 3 weeks later, she had lost all of her abilities to speak and eat and talk. Speak, eat, and walk. Sorry. And so I became the primary care for both my parents, because at the time my dad was 20 years older than her, and he was battling with lung cancer.
Wow.
And so we moved my parents here to Australia. And the thing with my mom's condition, so she was in a wheelchair, couldn't talk, couldn't eat, had to inject food in her. I was coordinating the services, and I remember very well the conversations with the neurologist, who said to me, the best thing you can do with your mom is send her back home where she's surrounded by friends and family and the things that she's familiar with. And I thought that was crazy, because I wanted her to be surrounded by medical professionals in a hospital. So just to be really transparent, she was in a psychiatric ward for the first 2 months. And so it's really shocking if that's your mom, or your loved one, family member, to see someone who is the rock of your family and the person everyone looks up to then being a completely different person, really. It's quite shocking. And so to hear that from the neurologist that she needs to leave is like, what are you trying to do to us? So yeah, look, with a lot of I guess pushback, I ended up folding to the neurologist and doing what he said. Brought her back into her home, and we did all the care services, coordinated the care services at home. It was middle of winter back in Canada. This is before we moved them here to Australia. And every week, as her brain slowly recovered, but it was like going through all the stages of development that a child goes through. And unfortunately, though, it was a lot more intense, because some of these stages of development were schizophrenia. Quite intense. She would think she was being trapped at home, so she would try to run away. She thought the hospital was home. And so I couldn't put locks on the doors, because that's a fire hazard.
Yeah.
So I constantly had to watch for her. No concept of, even just like having clothes. So running away was kind of the main thing she was going through at one point for about 3-4 weeks. So that was extremely stressful. And you don't want to, tie her up with a chain, or she's your mom at the end of the day. So but what we did during that time, that she went through all these different phases, is we kept inviting friends and family, and we encouraged it a lot. So I was reaching out to friends of hers and saying, hey, basically every day I wanted a different person to come. And then in terms of in the house, the activities we did were, I had a Wii. I don't know if you remember the Nintendo Wii. So I had that installed. I have some photos as well of that, of her playing Wii. That was really good for her. And she really loved, I tried a bunch of, back then we still, well, in her house, she still had CDs. So I went through the CDs that she had, and I tried a bunch of them. Some types of music she didn't, react to, but the two that she reacted to the most were Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, I really random, but she obviously, that was her type of music. She loved those artists. But when I put those two artists on, she would just start dancing, and that was really great because she would have a smile on her face, so it made her happy. So obviously we played that every day, so I know every Johnny Cash and Elvis song.
Probably haven't listened to them since, have you?
Yeah. And like it was just like, yeah, and like just going back to all of these little things that we did for her to help her recover. And oh my god, like it's a miracle when I tell people that today, she's back living in her own apartment independently, and the only care she receives is social care, which is what Like Family does. And she receives social care because she can do everything herself now. She can shower herself. She can make her own dinners and lunches, and she even now volunteers. She can't work, but she volunteers at Vinny's.
Wow.
And she's got an amazing life. She's extremely happy. Every time I talk to her, she's always positive.
Yeah.
It's just like an amazing recovery, and honestly, I that's why I go back to what the neurologist said, that human connection piece. And the reason why it worked is the brain is just this crazy part that we don't fully understand yet, even through all the science that exists, but it finds pathways to reconnect and to connect the dots and to build itself. And there's areas of the brain that are damaged from the virus that she acquired. So what the brain will do is just find ways around it. And yeah, there'll be little moments where she can't. So what she struggled the most with right now, which is a sign that that part of the brain was affected, is names. So instead of saying, she'll never be able to remember your name even if you see her regularly. So that's a real kind of problem for her. But it's not that big of a deal. It's just like, so she'll call me my dad's name, or her brother my uncle's name, like instead of my name. Or she'll call my son Jack, she'll call him my name. So she'll call a table a chair. So that honestly, like to go where she was to, that's the biggest problem. Like, wow, okay, it's we can live with that. It's not, as long as she's happy. And oh yeah, human connection is what enabled that. It just, because the thing is with if she had stayed in a psychiatric ward, I imagine that she would have been just exposed to a routine, too much of a routine, and not enough stimulus around her. And the fact that we had the outdoors and just being outdoors in nature and going for a lot of bushwalks and stuff like that helped. I mean, the results talk for themselves.
So, and interesting you said about the brain and the pathways firing, because I know through working with dementia and Alzheimer's and music, they have done studies on people with dementia where parts of the brain have stopped working, and when they've done the MRIs and they've played certain kinds of music, those pathways have actually refired. So and interesting, the most memorable kinds of music are what we listen to between the ages of 18 and 25. So I don't know if that fits for your mum and Elvis and Johnny Cash, or whether.
Well, she's born in 1958, so
so it's probably around right. So I always say that I always think, oh my goodness, what was I listening to when I was like 18, 19? And it was probably
oh my god, that's thing. I'm just thinking about what I was listening to. It's like, to early 2000s. Oh
yeah, I know.
Oh no.
So that's what's gonna refire our brains if we're in that stage that we need to connect with music. It's going to be, for me, maybe Brittany, New Kids on the Block.
That's hilarious. So
it's pretty scary.
That's a good icebreaker you could do in a group, is ask people like, okay, so you're 98 years old, you have dementia, and your kids or your family is playing you a song from the early 2000s. What would that be? I think mine would be that, like, probably Nelly. Do you remember?
Yeah.
That would be embarrassing, 98 years old.
But I say it with the work I do, especially going into aged care, those songs that I've had people that are non-verbal, and then I'll play a song and they'll suddenly start singing. And it's obviously those songs from that era of their life. So they were 18 to 25. So think very carefully about what you let your kids listen to.
Well, when they're 18 and 20, you don't really...
No, you don't get to say. There might be a bit of Bon Jovi in there for me as well. I'll be singing Living on a Prayer when I'm in an aged care home.
That's great.
I remember when we spoke before, you were saying that when it came to people going out with your mum and things like going to the movies or whatever, the kind of people, like, she didn't want people to necessarily, as you said before, care for her, just to do the things that she loved doing.
That gave me goosebumps when I asked her. I said, so just to put some context for the listeners, when you're a primary carer and for one, or in my case, two people in our house, it's very isolating. It got very dark even at some points because of what I shared. But you're quite isolated in a house, and you want your loved ones to go out and have fun and enjoy themselves. You want them to be happy ultimately. And I was still working full time. At one point when we moved in here in Australia, I was working 3 jobs. So it was really important that I maintain those for financial purposes. Because my parents weren't eligible yet for government funding because they were on these visas.
Yeah.
But if I was at work, I wanted them to go out. And so I suggested early on, Mom, Dad, why don't you go out with there's your support worker? And the support worker that I had quoted, her name, I won't say it here, but like I had said, like, hey, why don't you go out with blah, blah. And my mom said, well, I don't really feel comfortable going out with the person that showers me. And that gave me goosebumps because I didn't realize that it's a bit of an ignorance on my end, not thinking that there's a difference. And she kind of just said to me, like, I don't feel comfortable. It's not that the same relationship I have. I love my support workers who are providing me essential services like showering, but if I'm going to go out and have fun, I want to find someone I actually like, I would meet out in the community.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a light bulb moment. It was, and that's when, I don't want to sound too cheesy, but our friend's name is Destiny, and I always joke around Destiny came to the rescue, but that's essentially what happened. We had a friend called Destiny who's 25 years old, and never thought about working in disability or aged care. She was just she was actually a school teacher, and but incredibly reliable, passionate, and my parents saw her as a friend, and she would take my parents out to the movies. My parents had no problem with it. She would take them out to the beach, and even she helped my dad do exercise, which is a miracle because at 75, 70, when he was here, was 76. He refused to do any exercises. He was his physio gave him, but there's one person who could do it, and it was Destiny. So we were it opened our eyes that why are my parents so responsive to our friend Destiny, but they're less responsive to people who have qualifications? What is it like? What's causing that? And I think one of the big things is that, like, number one, the relationship is different. One is providing one service and the other is providing a different service. And I think we need to sort of realize that people with disabilities, they they have hopes and dreams and ambitions, and just matching someone because that's what they say they need. And like the traditional model where a provider goes, hey, here's a support worker that's available, and not considering other factors like that emotional connection you have with someone. That's where I realized that actually there's a gap there. There's massive opportunity for people like Destiny who are looking for flexible, rewarding work, and people like my parents who are looking for someone to just have fun with and live their best lives. That's really what we're trying to do. Yeah.
And I think, like you were saying about the qualifications, and when people come from a care background, I think often they're very task focused, and it's like, got to have a shower, you've got to have your medication if applicable, you've got to have your breakfast at a certain time, and it's all very task oriented, where as humans we actually don't necessarily crave that all the time. We need those things to happen, but we need to be flexible and to see what the human, the real person needs at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's actually feedback. Our early, when we started in 2016, we created, we were called Home Care Heroes before being called Like Family. And we weren't sure really if what we were creating was going to resonate with people. And as soon as we launched, we had some early customers, and we asked them, why use our services? What did you find? What was the difference? And a lot of feedback came back saying, well, what I love about your workers is that when they come to our house, we tell them, what is important, what our loved one likes, and what they're interested in, and what works and what doesn't work. And then we allow their loved ones to build a connection. So, our workers will get there, and they may not know straight away what to do. They don't have a clipboard, and they won't go, okay, today, Emma, we're doing X, Y, and Z, and this is the program, and this is what we need to do it's more like, hey, Emma, my name is Matt. Tell me about yourself. Let's get to know each other and learn what you love and what you don't love. And let's see how I can help you. So it's more of I think it's more of a collaborative approach, but I also want to make it really, I think it's really important that, I think people with the qualifications for care are extremely important. So we're not saying that, people with qualifications, not putting that kind of role down in any way, because we need more people like that. I think what we're trying to do is just change the industry, innovate the industry, so that there is additional empowerment of the people who are looking for support, in the sense that they don't just need to rely on the limited workforce that have qualifications. There's more people out there that can support them and help them achieve other things. And there's plenty of room for both. There's plenty of room for support workers with qualifications, because we don't have enough people. And there's room for people in the community who can provide companionship and non-medical services. It's a huge industry. We need 1 million support workers in aged care alone by 2050.
Yeah.
Between aged care and disability, we need 140,000 support workers every year. And I think what we realize we are also helping the industry with is bringing in people in the industry. So we're saying, hey, okay, you don't have qualifications, but would you like to hang out with someone and be a big brother or a big sister for someone? And in the process, a lot of people who start doing this type of work, they go, hey, this would be an amazing career opportunity. It's like, great. Would you like us to find a provider who can provide that training so you can get your Cert 3 or your Cert 4?
Yeah.
And so often what we end up doing is helping people, like it's a career pathway. They get work experience with us. Then they start doing their certificates in disability. And then we can we have partners in the space that we can refer them to once they've graduated. So yeah, I think it's I just wanted to make that clear as well.
I appreciate that.
Because I think a lot of people, especially qualified support workers, would think, oh, just because I have qualifications, I can do the social stuff as well.
Yeah.
You certainly can, but it's not about I think it's more about like giving people the best possible matches, and giving them that choice and control.
Yeah.
Mm.
And like you said before, it's collaborative. It's, you know, what do you need? How can we help you achieve your goals?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When I think about, you know, the work that I do, there's often, you know, misconceptions and preconceived ideas about working in aged care or with people with disabilities. And I guess that's one of the main goals of having these conversations, is to try and, I don't like to say educate, because I think sometimes that can sound a little bit condescending, but to, you know, to open people's eyes to a world outside of their own bubble. What are some of the misconceptions that you've come up against or across, working and like setting up like family and growing the business?
I might have to ask, like, sorry, Emma. So in terms of misconceptions,
That's okay.
In terms of like just general misconceptions.
Yeah, well, you know, how it is to work with someone that might have an intellectual or physical disability,
Yeah.
about what the work entails, because I think for
Got it.
people that have never worked in that field, it's like, I can't do that because XYZ.
Yeah. Yes. Where do I start? Oh, okay.
The rabbit hole.
Yeah, that is a really good one. Wow. Look, first of all, I think I am amazed by how many people don't actually understand the different disabilities. And I think that this, you know, since what happened to my parents, and then the like family process, I guess I don't want to say I was definitely not lucky, because my uncle also suffered from or lived with schizophrenia. So I guess like I had seen, I had lived with family members with disabilities, and but starting like family, you know, for example, I learned so much about autism, which I wasn't familiar with before. Cerebral palsy, I was not familiar with cerebral palsy before. And there's, you know, the severity of cerebral palsy. It goes from, you know, there's four sort of types, right? And correct me if I'm not using the right terms, but I just remember we did a Chat Learn Change, which is an event we did to educate our community. So what we would do is, for example, we'd have our members with a particular disability come and present and educate the audience, and that was really insightful. And it was amazing, because one of just to give you a really great example around misconception is, there's one of our members, and I won't name his name, but he's 28 years old. He has cerebral palsy, and he's in a wheelchair, and he has difficulty moving his arms and legs, and his head. So he's got difficulty, you know, moving his body, and but his brain is completely fine. And so one of the things was that he was saying on stage, with the help of his mom on stage, is that he really hates it when support workers come to his house and treat him like a baby, and they'll lean down and talk to him like, "Hello, Emma. How are you, Emma? How are you today? You know, are you doing well? Yes." And then, you know, they'll ask him questions, and then look at his mom. It's like, and then you don't realize he's actually 28-year-old man. Like, do you know how, you know, annoyed you would be if someone talked to you like that?
Yeah.
But just because of the appearance, people talk down to him.
Yeah.
And it was actually quite refreshing and funny, because on stage, his mom translated that so basically when someone would talk to him down like that, he'd look at his mom and say, "Mom, can you tell them to fuck off?"
I probably know who you're talking about.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I just thought that was everyone
Yeah,
laughed. We
yeah,
just that was so refreshing, and it's
yeah,
just yeah, misconceptions like that happen all the time, and even the other thing, Emma, that's really kind of tough now is that I notice everywhere I go. I notice it. When you're like you're shopping for something, and then all of a sudden wherever you go, you see that thing that you're shopping for. I don't know, like or you
yeah,
that
yeah,
thing you're thinking of.
yeah. Don't think of a pink car. There's pink cars everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And like I'll be on a I was on a train once, and there was this young man who was um uh yeah, just making loud noises and moving back and forth, right? And people around him, there was people around him that were scared, and they
Yeah,
went to sit somewhere else, um, just out of fear because he was just making a lot of noise and rocking back and forth. I guess, yeah, I've seen so many of our community members with similar abilities that I knew that there was nothing to be afraid of. The young man is just um, either expressing himself, and then I kind of looked over to see, and he was actually like he had his phone out and he was watching a funny YouTube. So it was just kind of his
yeah,
way. He was just expressing himself.
yeah,
Um, and there's another example around misconception where you're with groups of friends, people who've been your friends for a long time, and they'll you'll be out and then they'll make comments, and all I can think of is that's really insensitive, or you know uh
yeah,
actually it's I just sometimes you feel like you don't want to, yeah, you actually it's all about educating,
yeah,
and yeah, actually my friends appreciate it, like when we're out and they make comments that I think are inaccurate or insensitive. They actually really appreciate it that I explain to them why maybe a person's behaving this way and
yeah,
what their disability is. So it's pretty great actually to know all this information. It changes your perspective, and it's so rewarding. Like, talk to anyone who's done this type of social work or support work. It's so rewarding, and you just what you learn about other people is what makes it rewarding. um, and I guess, like, for me, one of the young men that I supported who had autism, nonverbal, and I gave the example of the young man I played soccer with, seeing him achieve really small goals every week. Like, they're not big goals, they're small goals. Like, so just as an example, I would play soccer, and the way we would do it is he would follow me. So we call it shadowing. And so I play, and then whenever I get the ball, I give him the ball, and then he'll shadow me. So we'll run together, and all the other players give him some space so he can, maneuver with the ball. And yeah, when we started, he would be scared of the ball, so he wouldn't want to touch it. And then it took maybe 3 weeks for him to get comfortable, then starts dribbling with the ball, and fast forward 6 months towards the end of the season, he was scoring goals, and he was running at full speed with the ball, and that's what made the parents so, like, his mom, like, I just remember her expression, because she stopped coming to the games because the sport, like, it was always the same thing. And she was coming towards the games at the end because she just couldn't believe that he was actually running, dribbling with the ball and shooting it in the
yeah.
net.
So cool.
And so that was just like, wow. And I was like, yeah, I was really proud of that moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is amazing. I know, like, I've been running classes, and my kids have come to some, like, in school holidays, they've come to classes when they were little. And I know now that, if we're out and there's someone with a support worker, or they're with their friends, and like you were saying, their friends might make a comment because they don't know any different. And my girls will now, educate them and say, well, have you thought that maybe this is happening or this is happening? And we'll see class members out at the shops, and my girls will be like, mum, there's so-and-so, let's go and say hello. And it's that kind of bridging the gap and educating. And like you were saying before about the small goals, the classes that we've been doing via Zoom, when I started, we were doing a freestyle track, and we'd put the camera on various members of the group. And the first couple of weeks, the camera would go onto them, the spotlight would go on them, and they'd kind of freeze and not do anything. And over the course of the last 3 months, they're busting out the most unbelievable moves, and just building up that confidence every week, and that belief in themselves, and that knowing that they're safe and comfortable to express themselves as well.
Yeah, that's great. And there's so many examples of that, right? It's actually easier than people think. I think people just get scared of the challenge. They think that because they can't do it now, they'll never be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I, not to say it's easy, but I think it's easier than people think.
Yeah.
And yeah, it goes all the way back to human connection, like giving the opportunity for people to be in a comfortable space and to just test and see if you have got social anxiety. It's like, oh, okay, they're giving me the space to be not to be judged, and I can say things and do things without consequences, and people are going to be supportive.
Yeah.
I think that's why those members are blossoming.
Yeah. Anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to make sure that we talk about or that we cover? Well, we've talked about a lot.
It's just such a I'm just happy we got to talk about that, because it's such a powerful it just reminds me of why we do what we do. And wouldn't trade it for any money in the world. I think I honestly I would love, like, I definitely want in the future my kids to be doing this type of work, and they're when they're 18 as a first job. It teaches so much empathy and, like you were saying, the insights and knowledge around disabilities. I think it's really, really important. But empathy, patience. I'm so proud of the young people that are on our platform doing this work. I'm just like, wow, whoever your parents were, you guys are amazing people. Like, there's some 20-year-olds that on our platform that are studying, and they're just like, I wasn't like that when I was 20. I'm like, wow, how are you so mature? And some of them are moving on to be entrepreneurs, and they have like really awesome ambitions around like social impact. I'm like, wow, I wish I started doing stuff like that when I was in my 20s. So I think, like, I don't know, I think it's really important now. We're getting out of, with COVID, more and more people are going to be looking for rewarding work. And I think that we should be trying and find, I think we should just, spreading, podcasts like this one, where people can hear about what an impact it makes, and in going, because of COVID, I think a lot of people are going to be looking for more rewarding work. Whether it's, as a social care on the Like Family platform, or, or with the Daisie chain, or with any other organization. I think we should be trying and get more people in the space. There's enough room for everyone to be participating, and we're moving towards more of an inclusive community, which is good to see. There's still a lot of, I feel like there's still a lot to be done, but we're heading in the right direction. And I think it's really interesting that, I've been talking to a lot of organizations and people outside the NDIS, and I don't think there's a risk of the NDIS going anywhere. People actually from outside this space think the NDIS could disappear. I don't think that that's possible. We've done so much, and it's a new, a new scheme, takes time to develop. It's creating positive results for people. We just need to persevere, and I think our society is heading in the right direction. Yeah, I thought I would just start talking. Maybe a topic would come up, but yeah, I'm
We're
really,
just following your brain.
yeah,
It's when you
exactly.
start busting out the Nelly songs that we're going to worry.
I just like just talking to you about all the reward. Your questions made me think about how awesome it is what we do. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of a bit distracted by. It's kind of nostalgic to think about.
Yeah, and I think when you do something like you do and like we do, sometimes when you actually start talking about it and you think about your vision and your purpose and your mission, it's a bit mind-blowing, because it's like, whoa, like we've achieved so much, but we've got so much that we want to do, and so many things that we can
Yeah,
do and implement and change and help people. And yeah, sometimes I get a bit freaked out by my own goals as well.
yeah, yeah. And it something else that might surprise a lot of people is, with the Daisy chain and like family, we have a lot of members that are actually, younger. A lot of people think social isolation and loneliness is something that older people experience, but what you do and what we do is proof that it's not actually entirely true. There's reports in psychology that have come out saying the most isolated age cohorts are 18 to 25. So, and I think there's a really bad, I heard this week around, even suicide rates are more common in younger people.
Yeah.
So I don't look. We can make assumptions around why that's the case, and I think a lot of hypotheses are around social media and the digital age. Whether or not that's true, it's hard to measure. But nevertheless, if there's a high suicide rate in younger people, we need to really understand why that is.
Yeah.
And back to this topic, human connection. Does it have something to do with that? Yeah, I think, we need to look at ourselves as a society and think what we can do to reduce that rate, because that's not normal.
No, my daughter read to me the other day, she's 15, and she said to me, I don't know where she saw it, probably TikTok or somewhere, but it was basically saying that kids in that kind of 16 to 25 category have as higher rates of anxiety as they did during the world wars, and that kind of fear for their life and that not knowing what's going to happen, and which that kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, it's not normal.
No.
We've got to, that's why I think, and I think that's why I think this kind of work is impactful.
Yeah.
We have one social care who's an actor. We've got multiple actors actually on our platform. And the reason I always ask them, like, well, what made you think of doing this for work? And he's like, well, as an actor, you're always like, it's very sort of you're always like, it's always about you. And what I like about this kind of work, whether, it's with the Daisy chain or like family, is that when I do work for others and I help them achieve their goals, it makes me feel good. And that's the, what's that chemical? I think it's serotonin. Or serotonin, isn't it? Yeah.
There's a few. Serotonin.
Bit of oxytocin.
Yeah, oxytocin.
Yeah. That's so I think there could be an imbalance maybe around some people, younger people, not getting enough of that. But I think, I think this is a really good solution. You can see people who actually have better lives, but were not giving as good of an opportunity. They were just unlucky. Some of our members that's how their parents describe it. It's just they love their lives, but they were just unlucky, and were born with different ability.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Where can we find you? Obviously, I'm going to put your links in the show notes, but if people want more information, website, Facebook, Insta.
Yeah, all of you. Website, www.likefamily.com.au. Facebook, Like Family, AU. So with all the social media tags, we've got AU at the end. So Instagram, same thing, like Family AU. And we are also on Twitter. Bit new to Twitter, but personally, I still don't understand it. But we
Not
are,
right.
but a lot of people are using it. So
Are you on Snapchat?
not yet. No.
No, that scares me. I feel like I'm too old for Snapchat.
Oh yeah, I heard that was for. We're not on Snapchat or TikTok, but I feel like you should be on TikTok, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you should definitely be on TikTok.
I'm a bit scared. I'll get my daughter to do it.
It's all about TikTok's all about dancing. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, it is. All right. So thank you so much. It's been an amazing chat, really insightful. Love everything that like family is doing and excited to work with you guys. So thank you again for your time.
yeah, thank you so much for having me, and yeah, love your work as well.